Welcome back to another recap. Today we are diving into the movie The Conjuring, Last Rites. The story opens in 1964. A young Ed and Lorraine Warren visit an antique shop, where a frightened woman insists an evil presence in her store drove her father to suicide, and since then it's been watching her and whispering her name. Lorraine, heavily pregnant, ventures into the back room despite Ed's concern. She insists she can handle it. She moves through the clutter, brushing her hands over dusty relics. Then something calls to her. She stops before a shrouded object. Pulling the cover back reveals an antique mirror crowned with 3 carved faces. Lorraine gazes into the glass and introduces herself, telling the mirror she can feel its spirit and wants to help. But when her hand touches the glass, a sharp crack splits across it and her reflection smiles sinisterly at her. Visions of a hanging body and a distressed unborn child flood her mind. Pain tears through her, and she screams for Ed. He rushes to her side as she gasps that something's wrong with the baby. The storm outside rages as they speed to the hospital. The doctors frantically work to get her baby out, but Lorraine is bleeding heavily. Suddenly the lights go out. She can sense the mirror entity's presence in the room, growling in the shadows, circling like a predator. Then Ed bursts in the delivery room as Lorraine pleads with him to protect their baby. Moments later, the doctor delivers the child, but it's silent. They try to revive it, but they can't. Lorraine begs the doctor to give her her child. He places the baby in her arms and apologizes. She and Ed clutch the lifeless infant, praying desperately. Then, like a miracle, the baby cries. Lorraine tells the doctors her name is Judy. A brief montage follows as Judy grows up. When young Judy comes running to her mother, terrified of the spirits she sees, Lorraine soothes her with a Lucy Locket rhyme to push the darkness away. Then, the story jumps to 1986 West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Here we meet the Smurl family. Jack, his wife Janet, his parents, and their 4 daughters. They are attending their second eldest daughter, Heather's confirmation. Later that evening, they gather for dinner, as Jack records it all on his camcorder. John, the grandfather, gives Heather an antique mirror. Her older sister Dawn is jealous because she didn't get something this fancy for her confirmation. But the dog is growling at it. Something about the mirror unsettles it. Heather notices a crack in the glass, and it's the same mirror Lorraine faced 22 years ago. As the family chats and laughs around the table, the mirror seems to listen and watch them. When it's time for cake, the room goes dark. Heather leans forward to blow out her candle, but before she can, someone else does. She accuses Dawn, but Dawn swears she didn't do it. Before anyone can relight the candle, the ceiling light crashes down onto the table. Heather screams as blood trickles from a cut on her forehead. The following text states that after decades of paranormal investigations, Ed and Lorraine Warren thought they had seen everything. However, this particular case in Pennsylvania would be the one that brought their careers to an end. Currently, Ed and Lorraine are on hiatus, trading hauntings for lecture halls, teaching about their investigations at a university. Their daughter Judy, now grown, joins them for dinner and mentions bringing her boyfriend Tony to Ed's birthday. Ed's not thrilled, and his heart is too fragile for both demons and boyfriends. Lorraine, however, is distracted. She's hearing whispers again, seeing flickers in the corner of her eye. Judy, too, hasn't escaped her childhood hauntings. She quietly recites the Lucy Locket rhyme under her breath to keep the visions at bay. Lorraine reaches over, placing her hand on Judy's to comfort her, only to freeze when she sees a demonic hand resting on her daughter's shoulder. Meanwhile, back in West Pittston, the Smurls' quiet home begins to unravel. Janet, doing laundry in the basement, hears her name whispered in the dark. She freezes, then reaches for the light, but no one's there. Later, she's on the phone, pacing as the long cord trails behind her. Suddenly, it jerks and is then yanked out of her hand. Thinking it's one of the girls' pranks, she scolds them, only to realize they're across the room. The cord snakes into the pantry on its own. Janet flips the light switch, but it's empty. Not long after, young Shannon sees one of her dolls slide across the floor toward the mirror. It lifts, floating midair. Behind it, she sees the ghost of a wrinkled, old hag smiling back. Shannon screams, bolting from the room. That night, Heather and Dawn are really creeped out by the mirror. The carved faces seem to watch them, so Dawn decides to get rid of it. Together, the sisters haul the mirror outside under cover of darkness, leaving it by the curb for the garbage man. In the morning, the garbage truck stops by the Smurl house. The workers lift the mirror and toss it inside. As the compactor crushes it to shards, the Smurls are having breakfast, and Dawn suddenly starts coughing. She begins to violently vomit blood and shards of glass. The family screams, rushing to her side as she's taken to the hospital. Elsewhere, Ed sits in a doctor's office. His physician warns him that another heart attack could be fatal. Later, he returns home where Lorraine is throwing a birthday party for him. Judy brings her boyfriend, Tony, whom she has been seeing for 6 months. Tony is so nervous, and he really wants her parents to approve of him, especially Ed. Father Gordon is there too, telling them the Smurl family has been trying to reach out for help. But the couple's hiatus from field work still stands. Outside, Tony mingles with guests until he meets Brad, a man who once worked alongside the Warrens. Curious, Tony asks if he's ever witnessed an exorcism, and Brad tells him he had a front row seat to one and shows him a scar on his cheek. Meanwhile, Judy retreats to her room. Behind her, a chair begins to creak and rock on its own. It's Annabelle. Judy closes her eyes and begins to chant the Lucy Locket rhyme under her breath. When she opens her eyes, the room is empty. Tony enters and asks her about the words she was whispering. She explains the rhyme, and Tony wants to learn it. She teaches him, the two of them closing their eyes, reciting it together. Then Lorraine interrupts them, telling Tony that Ed wants to see him in the garage. Tony joins Ed for a game of table tennis that feels more like an initiation test. Upstairs, Lorraine confronts Judy about her visions. Judy says she can handle them, but Lorraine insists she must learn to shut them out. Then Lorraine and Judy go to the garage, as Ed claims his victory at the table and Judy and the rest head upstairs for drinks. But Tony approaches Ed and Lorraine, hesitating before pulling a small ring box from his pocket. Inside is an engagement ring he bought for Judy only a week after meeting her. He asks for their blessing. Lorraine is excited, but Ed is far from it. For him, it is too soon. Tony nods and says he will come back and ask again in a month. But Judy returns to the garage and spots the ring on the table. Ed gives Tony permission to go ahead. Tony proposes, and Judy happily accepts. Meanwhile, at the Smurl house, tension grows. The girls are terrified by what's been happening. They beg to stay at a hotel, but Janet reminds them it's too expensive. Jack tells them he's spoken with a priest and that the church has a process for handling these things. Dawn accuses him of not believing them because he hasn't experienced anything himself. That night, Jack is about to lie on the bed when a ghostly face appears between the bars of the bed frame, staring at him. Suddenly, he's unable to move or breathe, and his body lifts off the bed. The female spirit crawls on top of him. In another room, Heather replays the video from her confirmation party. She slows the footage and freezes when she sees it. A demonic face blowing out her candle right beside her. It wasn't Dawn. The image distorts, flickering until the ghostly shape of an axe-wielding man emerges and tries to attack her. She screams. Janet wakes to see Jack still suspended in midair before crashing back onto the bed. They rush downstairs to help Heather, finding her terrified. Janet tells Jack they have to do something. The next morning, the Smurls take their story to the press. Within days, news of the haunting spreads across Pennsylvania. Elsewhere, Lorraine takes Judy wedding dress shopping. When the attendant steps away to answer the phone, Judy is left alone in a room, surrounded by mirrors. She begins to sense something off, and the door creaks open and shut. Just as she relaxes, she feels something move beneath her dress. A faint chuckle follows, and she feels a sharp nick on her leg. Slowly, the hag-like ghost emerges from under the dress. The lights go out, and Judy closes her eyes, whispering the Lucy Locket rhyme. When she opens them, the hag is gone and the lights return. Relieved, Judy turns toward the nearest mirror. But her reflection doesn't move with her. It stares back, twisted and demonic, before slamming its hands through the glass and seizing her by the throat. Moments later, Lorraine and the store clerk rush in to find Judy collapsed on the floor gasping. Back in Pennsylvania, Father Gordon visits the Smurls in person after seeing their story on the evening news. Janet is grateful that the church has finally come. But Father Gordon shakes his head. The church doesn't know he's here. He admits he's seen this before, and he believes he can help. After speaking with Janet, Father Gordon begins blessing the Smurl home with holy water. When he reaches the basement and sprinkles holy water on the stairs, steam rises from the steps. Startled, he stumbles back and rushes upstairs. He tells Janet there's something down there and promises that he and the church will help. The church will listen to him. Soon after, he arrives at the Diocese of Scranton, determined to speak with the bishop. Sitting in the waiting room, the receptionist tells him to wait a while longer. Then his nose begins to bleed. The light flickers, and the receptionist suddenly vanishes. The phone rings, and Father Gordon answers it. Something speaks in Judy's voice and tells him, "You can go now." He freezes as the line goes dead. Then the doorknob across the room, marked with a cross, slowly turns upside down, and darkness fills the room. Father Gordon grips his cross and begins to pray, rebuking whatever has come for him. But the cross catches flames in his hands, burning his palm. He gasps, looking towards something unseen. His expression changes, as if compelled, and his eyes drift to an electrical cord from a vacuum cleaner nearby. Moving as if controlled, he takes the cord, wraps it around his neck, and then jumps off a balcony, hanging himself. Meanwhile, Ed and Tony spend an afternoon working on a motorcycle in the garage when Ed decides to show him something more personal. The room where he and Lorraine keep all the possessed objects they've collected over the years. He tells Tony this room is their life's work. Then he tells Tony about Judy, how she was stillborn, and how, in his eyes, she'll always be their little girl fighting for her life. Lorraine appears at the door, shaken. They've just learned of Father Gordon's death. The news leaves them devastated. At the funeral, Judy lays a hand on the casket and instantly hears a demonic growl. A vision flashes through her mind. She then asks another priest where Father Gordon died. His answer is Pennsylvania. Later, Lorraine stands at the sink washing dishes when the drain clogs. She reaches in to clear it and pulls out her locket, the one with Judy's picture inside. Startled, she drops it back into the water. But the sink has turned red. Blood fills the basin, spilling over the counter. Ed rushes in, and the vision abruptly stops. Lorraine tells him that something's wrong with Judy. Moments later, there's a knock at the door. Tony stands outside, panicked that Judy has gone to the Smurl house. They pull up to a scene swarmed by reporters. Lorraine says she doesn't care what's happening inside that house. They're going in, finding Judy, and getting out. But once inside, Judy refuses to leave. She insists the Smurls need their help. The Warrens agree to stay. They begin interviewing the family, piecing together the events that led here. Judy tells Tony she saw Father Gordon's death in a vision and feels that something wants her in the Smurl house. And Ed learns that Tony quit his job as a cop after a violent incident that nearly killed him, and that he bought Judy's ring right after that, as a kind of second chance at life. Lorraine begins inspecting the house. Judy wants to help, but Lorraine insists she stay back. In the parents' bedroom, Lorraine inspects the bed and suddenly sees the shape of someone lying beneath the covers, then standing behind her. She follows the presence down to the basement, hearing whispers and ghostly voices echoing around her. Through her abilities, Lorraine learns that years ago, a woman and her mother were murdered on this land by the woman's husband. The woman had been unfaithful, and the husband killed them both with an axe. Lorraine realizes that the three spirits haunting the house are just a facade. Something is blocking her true vision. Something demonic. She senses a powerful entity manipulating the other spirits as cover. Ed wonders why this demon has waited so long to reveal itself and what it's waiting for. Meanwhile, Judy is drawn to the attic by a voice mimicking her mother's. There, she finds a mirror fully intact. She reaches out and touches the crack, then looks around on the wall and sees a message written with chalk that says, "Miss me?" Terrified, Judy climbs down from the attic but hears one of the little girl's voices calling her from a bedroom. When she enters, the room is empty. until Annabelle appears, growing to an enormous size and chasing her through the house. Judy runs in panic and tumbles down the stairs, landing in her parents' arms. She tells Lorraine that something is in the attic. Ed and Lorraine are horrified when they see the mirror. They recognize it instantly from the night Judy was born. Ed explains to the Smurls their connection to the mirror and the circumstances surrounding Judy's birth. He agrees to help them expel the evil from their home. Dawn admits that she and Heather had thrown the mirror away, but Lorraine tells her that with cursed objects like this, it's never truly gone. She explains that the entity in the attic is a demon, the very first one she and Ed ever encountered, and the one they ran away from. The men prepare to move the mirror out of the attic. Ed warns them not to look at it, not to touch it, and to expect anything, because it will happen. As they lift it, Ed begins to pray. They put gloves on, cover the mirror with a sheet, and secure it tightly with belts. They start carrying it on the attic boards while Tony goes to prepare the car. The mirror becomes heavier, as if fighting back, and the belts start to untie themselves, freeing it from their grasp. The sheet flies away, and Jack looks at it. He falls down from the attic, and Ed is left holding the mirror alone. Lorraine goes to see Judy, who was previously lying on the bed, but she hears her singing the Lucy Locket rhyme in a child's voice from the corner of the room. Then she sees her possessed, and the voices tell Lorraine that they have been waiting for Judy for so long. Judy suddenly charges at Lorraine on all fours, knocking her into the basement and locking her inside. Judy, now fully possessed by the demon, sends the dog crashing into the wall. Tony tries to get inside the house, but is locked out. Ed shows up, sees Judy possessed, and tries to bring her back, but she grabs him by the heart and nearly stops it. Judy then heads up to the attic while Ed struggles to reach his heart medicine. Meanwhile, Lorraine is being attacked in the basement by the ghost with the axe. Tony manages to get inside and saves Lorraine. Ed tells the Smurls to get out of the house while he, Lorraine, and Tony go up to the attic to look for Judy. Tony and Ed reach the attic and find Judy hanging from a rope, suffocating. Ed and Tony manage to cut her free, causing all of them to fall through the drywall ceiling. Judy is unconscious, and her parents frantically try to wake her with CPR. Luckily, she is revived. The mirror entity makes one last attempt to kill the Warrens and Tony. The mirror starts to spin as Ed reads from the Bible to expel the demon. The mirror flies closer toward them, pinning Tony to the floor. Then Ed's reflection in the mirror tells him to shut up and burns his Bible. Judy starts to run away, chanting the Lucy Locket rhyme. Ed strikes his reflection with the burning Bible, and it cries out in pain, pinning Tony down and dragging him through the floor. It looks dire, and Ed tells Lorraine to get out. But Lorraine finally comes to her senses, grabs Judy, and tells her not to look away and not to shut out. They look into the mirror and place their hands on it. They see their demonic reflections growl and scream before Judy declares, "You are not there." The mirror cracks and shatters. The following morning, the Warrens bid the Smurls farewell. Tony helps Ed bring the broken mirror into their museum of haunted artifacts, placing it right next to Annabelle. Ed gives him the keys and welcomes him to the family. Later on, Judy and Tony are married. Among the guests are people the Warrens have helped in the past. During the reception, Ed and Lorraine dance as she tells Ed about a vision she had of their future, one where they are grandparents and continue their work helping others. Ed says it sounds perfect. The ending text states that the Smurl family continued to live in their house for another 3 years. Ed and Lorraine Warren were married for 50 years until Ed's health took a sharp decline, during which Lorraine cared for him until his death in 2006. She never remarried and died in 2019. While the Warrens' paranormal research was not highly regarded in the scientific community, they are credited as pioneers in their field for the work they did and the people they helped. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time,